So I had like my first embarrassing moment that I can remember, like this public moment as a kindergartner. And I remember, I'll spare you all the details, but just to set the scene a little bit, I can remember we were playing jump rope at recess. And when this event happened, all the other little girls ran like away from me, and she stayed right with me, and then all we did was we walked around the playground, and I just remember her telling me, "It's gonna be okay." And I like, just that still touches my heart to this day, like thinking about that, like that example of someone showing up for you and being present with you when it feels like everybody else has kind of turned and laughed or whatever.
Welcome to Girl Talk. I'm Nicole D. Miller, author, blogger, speaker, hybrid book publisher, and your host. At Girl Talk, we are a safe space for female leaders to engage in healing and edifying conversation. This is your Me Too empathetic corner, where we have authentic and transformative dialogue designed to uplift and connect high-achieving women like you. Are you looking for a safe space to cultivate sisterhood with other like-minded female bosses? Leave your cape at the door and join the conversation. Hi guys, and welcome back to Girl Talk, the space where we forge lasting connections, one heartfelt conversation at a time. I'm your host, Nicole D. Miller, and today we're tackling the question, are good friends hard to find? So, full disclosure, you guys, every topic of Girl Talk is handpicked by yours truly and is usually a byproduct of whatever is being highlighted in my life at the time. It wasn't until doing Girl Talk that I realized whatever it is I'm going through, someone else is going through it too. Even if we have different circumstances, we can still feel the same coming out of them. Girl Talk offers a safe space for female leaders to receive a Me Too empathetic experience. I personally am a product of community, and I've had so many women come alongside me on my journey of purpose. Many of them are the same ones you guys hear in these Girl Talk discussions. But I know that's not everyone's story, so I wanted to open up this space for other women to share their journeys. In this particular discussion, you'll hear from Lisa Evans, Esperanza Gallon, Jamia Lewis, Jennah Lear, and Lisa Nichols. Each woman is a boss in her own right, and if you'd like, you can connect with any of them by accessing their contact information in the show notes. I so appreciated what each woman shared, going way back into our childhoods when we first developed friendships with women. I think most of us can agree. Friendships can shape us in ways we don't always realize, and they're so vital to us becoming the highest versions of ourselves. But the question remains, are good friends hard to find? For me, I've been blessed to have the same sisters for decades, but I've also experienced several close friendship losses. I'm sure you can think of a few of your own. In this episode, we're peeling back the layers to understand where female friendships begin, how they evolve, and the challenges in forging lifelong bonds with other women. Through our own stories of sisterhood and growth, we'll reflect on how friendships have defined us, taught us, and at times left us searching for more. So, grab your favorite beverage and join the conversation. I know everybody's time is precious. You guys know I like to run a tight shift, but we are here to have fun tonight. So let's unwind. For those who are joining in just now or going to be watching this on the recording, my name is Nicole D. Miller, author of Stories for the Urban Soul, a compilation of short stories, novellas, and poetry depicting Black characters dealing with relatable life issues infused with spirituality, encouragement, and hope. You can learn more at NicoleDMiller.com. So you are now tuning into our Girl Talk, our beloved Girl Talk, which once a quarter, we are gathering with a panel of dynamic women who are all leaders, powerhouses, high-powered influencers in all of their spheres and are doing their thing. And so we're just kind of picking their brain on these various topics that are relatable to all women. We are creating a space of women to support each other who are like-minded regarding various life experiences, regardless of race, faith, beliefs. We're just focusing on being bonded via the commonality of womanhood. So this is a safe space for every person who is in agreement that they're a woman and about supporting other women. So this particular topic we're diving into today is, are good friends hard to find? Dun, 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 dun. And all of you I consider to be my friends. So this is a really cool opportunity for me to kind of see what you guys say in response to some of these questions. I know a lot of people's stories on here, but also just allowing you guys to feed off each other. I know we've been kind of sticking to this format of me doing the question and then everyone kind of chiming in via their order. So we'll kind of stick with that because it kind of makes everything succinct and not chaotic or whatever. But of course, if you have something extra to add, please do. We want this to be dialogue. Like we said, we're creating a community. So I sent you guys over a few questions that we're going to kind of piggyback off of, and then whatever else I'm inspired to ask. And so I think we're going to start from my left. So we're going to go Lisa Nichols, Jamia, Esperanza, Jennah, and then Lisa Evans. So remember your number or your order, I should say, because I don't always. And then, of course, I'll chime in. So the very first question I want to start with is, what is your experience with friendship dating back to like your earliest memory of having a friend or having a best friend? And how did that impact, influence, or shape future friendships? So if you can kind of think back on what was your childhood friendship experience, who was your first best friend, how did that experience kind of shape future friendships? So starting with Lisa Nichols.
All right. So when I think back, one thing that I had mentioned when you and I went live is that I had actually a second cousin who lived down the street from me, down the block. And so she was one of my first really close friends because we went back and forth all the time. And that was, I feel like, one of my core relationships when I was really young. And I guess maybe the way that influenced future friendships was just like the way that we both kind of accepted each other as we were. We weren't like exactly the same. And, we didn't have all the same interests or whatever, which a lot of other friends that I had at that time, when you're like 5, 6, 7, you have friends based around like, oh, we all like, I don't know, the same color or something. But I feel like with her, because she was a cousin and everything, we kind of it was like, oh yeah, of course we're going to be friends. And then it was really cool because we didn't have to have all the same interests, but we still like got along really well and had a great time together. So that was one of my first memories.
And I love that because you were cousins, so you kind of naturally have this loyalty and bond that's kind of connecting you.
Yeah.
All right. Jamia.
Well, hey everybody. And I guess that's hey everybody, because I already spoke to the panelists, so that was for you, audience. But for me, my first friendship experiences, or one of my earliest, I would say, was in the kindergarten. So I definitely have similarities with Lisa in terms of like cousins that are friends, because you're so close and because you live in close proximity with one another. So that definitely has been a thing throughout my life. But in terms of like a friend that I made outside of the family, that was kindergarten. So I still know her first and last name. And in particular, there was I don't know what I want to call it, like an incident that happened, like where I learned what the word embarrassed meant. So I had like my first embarrassing moment that I can remember, like this public moment as a kindergartner. And I remember, I'll spare y'all the details, but just to set the scene a little bit, I can remember we were playing jump rope at recess. And when this event happened, all the other little girls ran like away from me. And she stayed right with me, and then all we did was we walked around the playground. And I just remember her telling me, it's going to be okay. And I like, just that still touches my heart to this day, like thinking about that, like that example of someone showing up for you and being present with you when it feels like everybody else has kind of turned and laughed or whatever. So that's my first memory of like, this is my friend. So
I love that because it's like your first experience was a demonstration of a loyal friend and someone who has your back when other people don't.
yeah.
That's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Esperanza?
Oh, I'm thinking for me, and I just realized this in this moment, my first two like significant friendships, like the earliest memories that I have, actually kind of would be summarized with loss. I had a little boy who was a family friend, or their parents, I guess, were, and then by association, he would hang out at my house and stuff like that, and we were friends. And I just remember playing with them and talking and laughing together. But he also died really young. So we were like 4 or 5, and he died some negligence on some parents' part, to put it, I guess, politely. And yeah, I was like 5 or 6. So I just remember not really knowing what death was and my parents having that conversation with me. And then similarly, another little girl who was in my kindergarten class, again, just lots of running around, giggling, doing little girl things, and getting to spend the night at her house, which was really cool and stuff like that. And maybe a year or so later, she moved away. So that was like my first like little heartbreak, like, oh, my best friend's moving. So, but both two really great friends and just lots of fun and playing and good times.
So you bring up a very valid, real experience, right? Which is loss of friendship. And it impacted you at such a young age. How did you recover from that? What were some things you feel like impacted you in future friendships? How did you heal?
Yeah. I guess in hindsight, I I I didn't know that this was what I was doing, but I guess I was praying a lot at that age. And like my guy friend who passed away, I remember like talking to him and praying for him, even though he was gone. And that just brought me like comfort. And I do remember being able to like talk about it with my mom, and I don't remember specific things that she would tell me, but just like comforting me, like he's in a better place, those type of things, which I found comfort in. I don't think I really got over my other friend losing, because I think I had this hope that she would like move back or something, which never happened, or that later in life I would find her. But we were so young, and this is pre-internet, so literally she could have been anywhere. So I do remember it took a little while for me to find like another friend that I was like as close with.
So definitely, struggled with some trust issues, which is understandable, but it sounds like it pushed you closer to your faith. And that's so admirable, even being so young, that was
Mhm.
the response. So
Yeah.
amazing.
Mhm.
All right, Jennah, you're next.
Yeah. I love this question because immediately what popped up for me was like all the like beautiful friendships I've had from very young to over the years. It's like a reel playing in my head. And yeah, what popped up for me was like, I remember like probably, I don't know, kindergarten, I think as far as I can go back. And remembering, I can't remember who said it, but like I remember her name and like who was my friend then. And just having an experience where I was always over at her house and she was always over at mine. It was much like a sister type relationship. And then I realized that like there's like throughout my life, I've always had like a sister type relationship and I don't have sisters. I have two brothers. So I think it was really interesting kind of how these friendships have these like deep bonds to the back where it was a sister. And I think how it shapes future friendships from that perspective is like there's always kind of one or a few like friends in my life, girls that were friends in my life versus like many networks and many friendships. It was just a few really like deeply connected people around me that I viewed as sisters. So I think that that's something that was really beautiful. And I've got to like journal on this because it's all just coming up now that we're talking about this. So yeah, it's really interesting.
And you definitely you touched on something that I want to talk about is that sisterhood. So that's beautiful. You can pin it all the way back to your early childhood.
Oh yeah, definitely. And never like really having that realization until now where it's like I have friends, but then there were like those sisters that were in my life. And so I still remember their names, right? Like I don't know where they're at now, but how deep those roots can go, you know?
Yeah, we definitely gonna touch on that in the next question. So put a pin in that.
Okay.
Thanks for sharing, Jennah. Lisa Evans.
Yes, so I'm kind of similar to Lisa Nichols as well. My cousins were my first friends. I was trying to remember like kindergarten, first grade, second grade, all the way up until middle school. A little bit of like fourth and fifth grade, but I don't remember any of my friends that I had before maybe maybe fourth grade. Because my cousins, I had a younger sister who was only 10 months younger than me. I have a younger sister. She's still alive. I have a sister who's 10 months younger than me. I had about three close cousins on my dad's side, and then about 2 to 3 or 4 cousins on my mom's side, that we always hung out with. So it's a lot of us. So I never really had friends outside of school, definitely not outside of school before I got older. And kind of would hang out more outside of school with people. But before then, it was just my cousins and family for a long time. So that really taught me about loyalty. And because our family is like ride or die, like that's your family, that's just who you go with first. And that really taught me about loyalty. And so as I got older, I began to look for those characteristics in my friendships. But I didn't really realize until a really adulthood that not everyone views friendship the way that my family did, or, how other people view friendship. We all just view friendship differently. So I had to go through the many rough patches of friendship to get to a place where I am now, where I'm very confident in my friendships and we all have the same values. And I've grown and learned and matured in friendship as well. We'll talk about that. But yeah, my family members are really my cousins were really my first friends for a long time.
I love that. You definitely touched on something that I was struggling with when trying to answer this question myself. I couldn't remember anything before middle school. Like you guys are like 5. I'm like, okay, I can't remember anything but I do remember because I'm from Toledo, which is like 2 hours from Cleveland. And we moved to Cleveland when I was 6. So I think so many of my memories are here, but it's like, well, I do have memories from Toledo. And there was a
family of sisters right next door to me. I was in an apartment complex with my mom, and I like lived over there. Like our moms were super close. They would watch me when she needed them to, and they were really close family of sisters. So that's probably my earliest childhood memory of having close best friends. And then it's interesting because similar to Hope, and that was devastating, thank God, but similar to Hope, I did experience friendship loss pretty young. And I think my brain always goes back to that because it was more of a traumatic experience. But it's like, oh, but I do have like a positive one that was even earlier on. And so what I'll say about the friendship loss experience was it definitely taught me that I can't be as easily trusting. But as I matured, I was able to look back on the situation and see like, oh, well, that person didn't necessarily reject me or abandon me. They had their own stuff going on. And so then I take it personal. And then, of course, having other relationships that have helped me heal over the years, some of you on this panel today. So that's been very helpful. So it's really cool that we all have very diverse stories. Some of us found friends and family that shows that people can be blood related and still be really close friends. Some of us found it outside of that, and those people became like family. And so that will kick us off on the next question. And what I did forget was to have you guys introduce yourselves. So on this next round of questions, if you can just say your name. Most of you have businesses, how people can support you, in addition to answering this question. So the next question is there a difference between sisterhood and friends? And if so, like, what are those differences to you? And so we're going to reverse the order. We'll start with Lisa Evans, Jennah Lear, Esperanza, Jamia, and then Lisa Nichols.
Okay, sure. My name is Lisa Evans. I am I work full-time at Cleveland State doing marketing, and I'm also an entrepreneur. I have a blog, Faith and Lifestyle, and I also have a faith-based candle company. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook at Walking with Lisa. The question is there a difference between sisterhood and friendship? I personally, the way I like to look at friendship is in three different, I don't want to say levels, but groups, I guess. I look at friendship as you have your close friends, like your best friends, you have friends, and then you have associates. So that's kind of how I like to look at it. Sisterhood, I guess sisterhood and friendship can be the same thing. I really think it depends on how you view it. I don't really see a difference in friendship and sisterhood. I think at the place where I'm at right now, almost being 30, I'll be 30 next year, I've really kind of loosened the restraints that I had on friendship outside of categorizing where people should go. I used to be very super strict on friendships. Like, these three girls are my best friends and that's it. And then when we would fall out or we would stop being friends, I would go to another group of friends and say, these are my best friends. So that clearly was not healthy. So I've kind of just broadened my view and how I kind of look and treat people in regards to friendship. So I think they're the same thing. I think it just depends on who you are, which term you like more, what type of lifestyle you like, and the terms that you use. I think it really kind of defines if they're the same thing or not. I think they're the same thing. I think my close friends and my friends that I have and the people that I'm getting to knowing are like my sisters because we mostly have the same values. We both mostly believe the same thing, kind of value each other the same way. So I think they're pretty much the same thing.
Okay, thank you for sharing. Jennah?
Yeah. Well, I'm Jennah. I'm, just to do the intro part, I'm a brand strategist. I help women entrepreneurs grow their brand. And how you can support me, just follow me on IG. I'd love to connect over there. So it's Blue Louis Studios, LOUI Studios with an S. And we have a fashion show coming up for women entrepreneurs by women entrepreneurs. So I'd love for everyone to come. It's going to be really fun. It's at Loft in Legacy Village. So that's how you can support too. So sisterhood versus friendships. That scene in Shrek where he's like, ogres have layers. And so Donkey goes on to talk about, parfait. But I kind of look at it like that. I feel like there's like friendships and then there's maybe like layers deeper that leads to sisterhood. That's kind of what came up for me. And I feel like those that are around me that are like in my sisterhood or I consider sisters, like see me in my mess and still accept me. Kind of like the story that you shared, Jamia, where it's like I get where your gaps are, your triggers are. I know what makes you angry, like I know where you hide. I know, what you're going after, and I still accept you and I see you as a human that brings value to my life, right? And vice versa. Um and I think for me, like I can only speak for myself. It's like I don't like open myself. I'm not an open book. I know some people lead with that. It's a personality thing. I'm not. So if I show you like vulnerable pieces or I show you my mess and you accept me, I'm like, okay, we're sisters now. Right? Like there's like a bond that's built with that. So that's kind of what came up for me. I wanted to say that like for me in particular, relationships are hard because we moved a lot when I was little. So for those of you to talk about the friend that moved away, that was usually me. I think I moved about 6 or 7 times while my mom kind of went after a higher medical degree and kind of worked on bettering her life to better her family's life. And as a result, like relationships became harder and harder. I could make new friends in new places, but maintaining them as I became an adult, I became cognizant that it was actually something you have to work towards. So I think all friendships kind of take a certain level of priority and nurture. I personally am still working on that. So yeah.
Well, thank you for your authenticity. I'm sure many on this panel can relate. Esperanza?
Well, I'm Esperanza Gallon. I am a counselor and I have my own private practice here in Blue Ash, Ohio, Cincinnati, Ohio. You can support me by following me on social media. My Facebook page is facebook.com/Hope is Here Counseling. And on Instagram and Twitter, I'm at Hope is Here LLC. So I'd love to connect with you all. In terms of sisterhood and versus friendship, I definitely see a difference. I had a couple of experiences in high school where I had like some friendship betrayals. And that was my first time, even though I had experienced friendship loss, those earlier situations were not of their own doing. So I didn't feel like, even though I was sad about it, I didn't feel like it was, I didn't take it personal. But in high school, my best friends at the time, a few of them just had some hurtful experiences with them that I just didn't even think was possible because you're like my best friend. So what possibly could go wrong? So I later in life, with my closest best friends, I did have that distinction of like, wait, you people are different. You're special. I feel like I can trust you. You're safe people. And even if there's any friction or anything like that, it's not anything like, I don't feel like harm is being done to me, like in some of those other relationships. And so I definitely changed my language, probably like, college age, of referring to like my inner circle, those people as my sisters, because I'm like, family is for life, sisters are for life. Versus I've kind of felt like best friends can kind of come or go. And my own sister is 17 years older than me. So a huge gap. So we didn't really like grow up literally in the same generation or in the same household at the same time, all of those things. And so I was able to kind of have that experience of growing up with, literally growing up with other women, and laughing, crying, all of the sister things, at least what I saw sisters doing in the movies. So I definitely see a difference.
Thank you, Esperanza. Jamia?
All right. I am Jamia Lewis. I am the host of the newly launched Thanksgivers podcast. You can follow me on Instagram at the Thanksgivers podcast. And in order to support, please do listen wherever you listen to your podcast. So listen, rate, review, all of that. it would be a huge encouragement to receive that. Because this journey is hard. It's hard, y'all. So so that would be awesome. If you feel so inclined. So I really like appreciate all of the previous comments made. Definitely a lot to think about. I was trying to jot down notes based off of what they were saying. I didn't capture everything, but I think so with Jennah saying that there were layers to this, like, yes, like I agree with that. And also Esperanza's statement of like, yeah, there's a difference. And so as I was thinking about it, I feel like, my understanding of, or like our first understanding, I would say, of sister is being, like your sister is your sister. And that's like, that is a, like, even if you're at odds, even if, there's a disagreement, like that is a bond that does not dissolve. Okay. That's your sister. And I think it's possible with friendships for there to be a dissolution. And I guess that's where I'm like drawing that distinctive line. Now, the interesting thing is I definitely, I'm fortunate to say that, my sister is my friend, like, biological sister is my friend, cousin, sister, friends, like there's that too. But also like I've been blessed to have like to friends that are sister friends. And so and I think in that sense it is like a knowing decision, like these are people, these are women that I choose to keep in my life. So this bond is not going to dissolve even if we're at odds, because we're continually choosing each other, and choosing to forgive and choosing to listen, and choosing to offer grace, choosing to support, choosing to show up for each other, which, hopefully those things are happening in a blood relationship anyway. But I think it's even more special when it does happen, when there is no blood connection, because it's like you're literally choosing that. And for me, I have been uh, really, really blessed in that regard, to have, and I don't remember who exactly said this, but just in terms of like, being like-minded, having the same values, and then people that see you in your mess, like over and over again, and that not being held against you, because it's like a sister sees those things by default, and then but your sister friends, so friends who are sisters, they get invited into that space as well. So I think that there is a difference, but you can bring friends into that sisterhood, and that's what I've been able to be able to benefit from. And even while we were talking, like a couple of songs came to mind. It's like there's so many. Do you all remember CeCe Winans and Whitney Houston when they made "Count on Me"? Like count on me through thick and thin, a friendship that will never, So that one,
Waiting to Exhale soundtrack, wasn't it?
huh?
Was that on the Waiting to Exhale soundtrack?
I don't know. It might have been. It might have been. I feel like it was that same time frame, like mid '90s, when I remember that song being really popular. But between that, there's like so many songs that come up, like that are bubbling up right now, like Dionne Warwick, Stevie Wonder. That's what friends are for. And then there's another one that you probably never heard of, but I'm just going to bring it up because I think it's such a beautiful song. And her name is Annie Ruth. So she's a local artist in Cincinnati. But she has a song about sister friends that really resonates with me, that I really enjoy too.
Well, thank you for that playlist, Jamia. If you want, you can put them in the chat. People can look them up when they have time. Lisa?
Yes. So I am Lisa Nichols. I'm a career and leadership coach and consultant. And what I do is I help leaders own their brilliance and cultivate human-centered teams. And you can find me, you can interact with me, follow me, ask me questions, whatever, at Love Your Niche on Instagram. And I would love to see you there. But I love this question. I think that so many great things have been brought up. And so I'm not sure that I have a whole lot like new information to add. There were just so many great gems in what everyone was saying. I think for me, I feel similar to what some people have said that like there is a distinction in my mind because my sister friends, that's people who have like we've been through some stuff. Like Jamia was saying, like we have had struggles, we've had arguments, we all kinds of things, but through it all, like we were committed to the relationship, we are committed to each other, and there wasn't that threat of like if something, if we have an argument, then that's it. And so most of my sister friends have been in my life for a while now. And so we've been through a lot of different seasons in life, a lot of different experiences, and we've supported each other. Um, so I think like someone said about, yeah, like they know my mess. They're with me in it. They're not judging. They're not, they're not going to judge me for anything that I'm struggling with. They're there to support me through it. And so like just that loyalty and that commitment to each other, I think are some of the things that make them my sister friends. And so, yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Thank you for sharing. I agree. I resonate with the term sister as far as someone I'm super close with, who sees me in my mess, who I can let my hair down with, who doesn't judge me, who I've grown with. I've had the luxury of having people in my life do life with me for decades now. And I know that that's a gift. Now, I know Jamia kind of touched on this. You can have friends move into sisterhood. I've had that happen too, where we're spending so much time together. We're bonding. It's our season. And so we grow closer. And I've had a few of them be in my life kind of at a distance for years. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, it's our season. And we're just like this. So that's really fun too. It's like seeing someone with a new lens, or you guys are growing into these people that you're becoming and you match better. So that's been really dope. So I love that you guys all resonate with having that experience of sisterhood. I know some women don't. That's why I want to create Girl Talk. I want to give people an opportunity to form relationships, to know that there's community for women. And I know that you guys kind of touched on this, but with the next question, I want us to talk about like different traits and characteristics that we look for in women. What kind of things stand out to you in your friendships, like themes that you can see that you gravitate towards this type of person, or you choose these types of people to do life with? And how do you fight to maintain those relationships? And that's probably like the most meatiest question. So we'll kick it off with Esperanza, then Lisa Nichols, Lisa Evans, Jamia, and then Jennah.
Okay, so I mean, the characteristics, to kind of piggyback on what a few ladies said, definitely the support. I feel like in the highest of highs and the lowest of lows, these are women in my life that I can count on for anything. So that honesty of like loving me enough to like tell me about myself, even if I don't want to hear it, which is never fun, but always helpful. Being able,
counselor. I love that you said that.
Being able to pray with me, pray for me, those times when I've like been down for the count and couldn't pray at all for myself, and can just like, and couldn't even like pick up the phone, but I could send out like a SOS text and know like, these women will sincerely actually stop what they're doing and pray for me. And like fun too, like I have just crazy, funny, goofy memories of just like fun times too. So a lot of joy. And even if I'm in like a season or a moment of life where I'm not having a good time or whatever, I know that with my sisters, like it will turn to joy. Like I might not be in a good space, but hanging out with these wonderful women, like I will laugh, I will have a good time regardless of what we're doing. So those would be the characteristics. And then like the second part of the question, like how to maintain those relationships. I would definitely say like I had to learn in time, kind of seeing like what my part was that I was contributing to the friendships. Like I think about one of my high school friendships where there was a betrayal and I didn't handle that well. I just kind of like ghosted that person, never talked to them. They kept reaching out to me and I was just like, nah, I'm done. Whereas later in life, well, just a few years later, but you're so much earlier when you're out of high school, but a few years later, having another strain on a relationship and being willing to have more forgiveness, realizing that, I had like I said, a part to play in the friendship and not just how I kind of had this mindset before of like, I'm just going to see what the other person does or what the experiences are versus saying like, oh, I get to set boundaries. I get to ask for needs. I might be doing things that are not helpful. And I think as I grew spiritually, that also helped me to deal with the conflict instead of like just cutting my ties and moving on. To be able to say like, no, well, God has forgiveness for me. I should have forgiveness for other people. I don't always handle things right. And so, and having it modeled to me by these sisters in my life of, when I didn't handle things right, how they received me, how they forgive me, how they had love for me. And I'm like, well, I appreciate that. I should be able to do that too. So that just kind of helped me grow and being able to take more of my friendships to the Lord when I was in conflict too, instead of just complaining about the state that they were, was helpful to me too.
Thank you for sharing.
So, yes, so many things that Esperanza that you brought up. Women who are there to pray with me, like I definitely resonate with that. Having to send an SOS text and the type of text that you're like, if I sent this to other people, they will definitely think I'm crazy. But I know that this person is not going to think I'm crazy and they're just going to pray for me right now. So that's one huge thing. I think, of course, like loyalty and authenticity are really important to me. Those are things that I look for. And then even thinking of, like you said, about joy and everything, I'm thinking about the fact that my good friends also really enjoy like food. And like, we like to talk about food. We like to make food. We like to go out for food. You know what I'm saying? So like food is important. And bonus points if you like to dance, because that doesn't happen as often now, but like in the house, like I don't even care. We can, yeah. So those are some of the other like lighter things, but I'm like, that's who my friends are. I have a lot of friends that are like really funny people and really excited about, about those things as well. So that is the, some of the things that I look for. And if I think like this is an interesting question for me, because as I'm thinking through like how do I maintain these relationships or like pour into them, because obviously any relationship takes time, it takes effort. Like there's no one-sided relationship. And I think for me, I came from a place of actually having a really unhealthy expectation for myself. And always feeling like I had to maintain every relationship in my life. And sometimes even when like I would just, oh, well, you just can't let this relationship die. Sort of like no matter what, you just have to. And so that sets yourself up for like a lot of really unhealthy, like you don't have boundaries because you always have to be there for them. And you set yourself up for, some type of like abuse too. Sometimes people can do anything to you and you're like, well, I just have to keep the relationship. So that was something that took me years to like even understand and to realize that the pressure is not on me to maintain everything. Well, it does take, obviously I have to give also, but just not having that pressure or like kind of seeing where things go and like letting them go where they're going to go. And if it's meant to be, then I feel like then you do both. At one season of life, I might not be reaching out as much, but the other person is reaching out to me. And then it switches. So where you kind of have that give and take. So that's where my mind went when you said like, what are you doing? I feel like it's changed for me a lot over the years. And so I'm still extremely loyal and committed to my friends, but it looks a little different. And I guess I don't take all that pressure on myself.
Today in part 1 of Our Good Friends Hard to Find, we explored the multifaceted nature of friendship, from the memories of a loyal companion to the heartache of losses, from navigating the difficulties of rocky moments to being comforted by a friend who feels like family. I loved when Jamia shared that her very first powerful memory of a friend outside of her family was someone who stuck by her side through a hard situation at the tender age of 5 years old. At a young age, she was learning one very important character trait to look for in her friends, and that was loyalty. Contrarily, it was heartbreaking to hear Esperanza share about losing her friend so young. But it was also super inspiring to hear that it pushed her closer to God and strengthened her faith. I think these two stories reveal that children are able to exemplify leadership qualities and great character no matter their age. Esperanza was a child of faith who knew the power of prayer. Further along in our discussion, we reflected on how friendships have shaped our journeys, how they've stretched us, taught us the power of boundaries, and helped us redefine our expectations in relationships, which is something Lisa references near the end. At Girl Talk, we aim to and are still learning to create healthy and supportive bonds with other women. We invite you to do the same. Take some time to reflect on your friendships. How have they influenced who you are today? Have they helped you discover your purpose or become a healthier version of yourself? What steps can you take to build or nurture the relationships you desire? What's your earliest memory of a loyal friend or the pain of losing one? And how can you heal from that pain? But here's the big question to ponder. Now that you've heard some of our stories, do you believe good friends are hard or easy to find? Make sure to tune in to part 2 of this needed conversation as we continue to reflect on our experiences with our girl tribe. And remember, I attract amazing women doing amazing things. That means, sis, you're amazing. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. To continue the conversation, join our Girl Talk community by following @GirlTalkCLE on Instagram and Facebook.com/HTOHB, where you can join the Girl Talk Facebook group. You can follow me personally on Instagram @HTOHB, on Facebook.com/HTOHB, and at YouTube.com at HTOHB. Feel free to reach out via email info@indiemillerpublishing.com. If you're a writer who wants to take the next steps into becoming a published author, you can book a one-on-one consultation at indiemiller.pub. Just let me know you heard about my publishing house, The Girl Talk, and I'll give you a 50% discount on our one-on-one. If you'd like weekly inspirational nuggets, you can subscribe to my blog and monthly newsletter at NicoleDmiller.com, where you can learn more about me and my writings. Till next time.